Hey guys, this is Dr. Spears here, and I want to speak to you today about how to approach your science questions and the best way to go about that. Now, actually, there are two schools of thought when it comes to multiple choice questions. And I'll be honest, I don't have the answer on which way is best, which one is actually going to give you the best score improvement or what's going to work. So, what you need to do is you need to try out both methods that I'm going to share with you on how to solve your problems and see which one works best for you. Obviously, when you're doing a new approach to questions and solving them, you might see that your score goes down initially, which is kind of expected because you're doing things differently. But over time, you should see an improvement. Now, one might help you improve more than the other. So that's what we don't have the data for. That's something that you need to do individually to figure out which is going to give you the best bang for your buck. Because as a student, time is something that you don't have a lot of. That's your enemy. You don't have time to fool around, play around, and figure things out. You just need to find a system, stick with it, and go. And that's what I kind of want to do with you in regards to that when it comes to any type of science multiple choice exam that you're going to see. So, what you need to realize is the first thing that you need to do. I'm going to go over this method first, and that's the one where they tell you look at the question, but go to the end of the question, the clinical vignette or whatever it is, and you should see a specific question that they're actually asking you. So you're going to not even look at all that paragraph of text above. You're going to just kind of find that last one or two lines that has the actual question. You're going to read that question, and that's going to kind of hone you in on what you need to think about and what you need to look for. And then what you're advised to do is after you read that question, like, okay, they want me to specifically answer this question, you're going to go take a look at the answer choices. You're going to kind of glance down at those answer choices and see what they're asking of you, what could be potentially the correct choices. Obviously, only one of them is going to be correct. The other ones are going to be wrong, distractors, or something that could be correct in one scenario, but not in a specific scenario of the question. That's what they're going to do to you. And then what you're expected to do, you're expected to then go read the question again and get it all the detailed information that you need and then answer the question. And why they tell you to do it this way is because sometimes maybe you look at that line at the end where the actual question is and you realize, hey, you know what? This is basically what we call a stand-alone question that can be answered without any other information because it's very direct, it's factual, it's maybe something that you just needed to memorize, and whatever is in the actual question paragraph isn't going to help you get the correct answer. So that's something that you can do, and that works for students. They like that because they kind of when they go back to actually read the entire paragraph of the question, they kind of know what to focus in on, what to kind of skip over or ignore and not put so much emphasis on. And that helps students because they feel like, okay, I'm directed. I'm not just reading from scratch, having no clue what's going on. I already know what the answer choices are going to be, and I just need to pick out which is going to be the best one. So that's something you can do. And then here's the other strategy that you can do to answer your questions. Some would tell you, you know what? Don't waste your time looking to go to the end of the question and find what the specific question is, and then looking at the answer, glance at the answer choices and reading, because you're wasting time doing that. What is better is to actually read the entire question from start to end in order and actually mentally take note of what's going on and figuring out all the pieces of information. Because when you're taking these standardized tests, these multiple choice exams, more likely than not, they're not putting in gotcha information, extraneous information that you don't need. Everything in there serves a specific purpose and is there to help you get closer to the correct answer or show you that, oh, when the answer choice is incorrect because of what I told you in the question stem itself. So you need to be aware of that. And so what you need to do is basically go through the entire question, the paragraph, line by line, and say, okay, They gave me this information. What am I thinking about that? And now I got another piece of information. How do I put it all together? And then you get a third piece of information. And then you're basically coming out with your composite idea of what you think is going on. You're already starting to think in your head, okay, what could be the potentially correct answer choice? And so get through everything, you actually see what the actual question is, and then you don't even look at the answer choices. You go ahead and you formulate in your head what you think the correct answer choice is. So you have the correct answer choice, what you think is correct, and now you look at the answer choices, and what you do is you look for the one that most closely aligns with what you initially thought. And so that way you're really focused, you know what you're doing, and you're not looking to be distracted, because a lot of times when you take these exams, they're going to put distractors in there. They're going to put something that looks like, they're going to put something that students commonly get wrong as an answer choice, because they want to kind of weed out, do you actually know the material? Can you actually apply the material? Did you not just memorize it? Do you actually understand specifically what we're testing you on? And those are ways that they're going to do to make sure that you actually have a strong foundation of knowledge and material. And when you see the second way, when you're actually kind of interpreting a paragraph as you go along and then coming up with your answer choice, before looking at the answer choices, that's really making you think critically, skills that you're going to need as a physician, because everything isn't going to be a textbook classic case. You're going to have to think, you're going to have to interpret, you're going to have to do something when you call differential analysis and all of that when you're working on patients and doing your workups. So you need to start getting that framework now, because it's not like a lot of your exams where it's, okay, did you do the work? Did you do the assigned problems, assigned reading? Okay, now you should be able to just regurgitate and score well on an exam. That's not what is going to be asked for. You have a lot of these standardized exams that you're going to need throughout your career in medicine as a physician. So you need to start thinking like, okay, what's going to be the way that's going to help me maximize my chances of success and getting a top score on these things? So there's what you need to do. You need to try it out and see what works for you, because I can't just say, oh, you know what? Version one of looking at the looking at the question stem, the last line, and then looking at the answer choices, and then reading is going to be better than somebody who just reads the question from beginning to end in its entirety, forms an opinion of what they think is the correct answer, and then looks for the question that most aligns with it. That's something that I can't tell you, you can't tell yourself, unless you actually get in there and start doing questions and problems and seeing what actually works for you, what helps you boost your score the most, what's going to have you improve your scoring, test taking ability on these exams, because that's what you need to figure out. And a lot of times what students don't realize is that half the battle of the taking a test isn't just doing the studying. That's a portion of it. But the other half of the battle is actually, how do you actually take the exam itself? What are your test taking strategies? What principles are you using? What concepts are you using? What are you doing to make sure that you're moving forward and getting the most points on an exam, where you're not making stupid errors, silly errors in like reading comprehension, or just not paying attention and not answering what the test writer wants you to answer. So that's why I focused on these type of things, because anybody can do the reading. You can guys do the PowerPoints, you can watch, listen to the lectures, all of that stuff. But then it comes down to a point where you're like, okay, I studied this. I did my reading on it. Maybe I made flashcards on it. I outlined things, and I just did this. And now I'm doing problems on it and I'm getting it wrong. And you don't want that to happen. You're like, wait a minute, I just put all this time and effort into it and I'm still getting these problems incorrect, which I thought I knew from the studying that I was doing. And that could be, again, it's issue. Maybe it's not your studying, it's actually how you apply your test taking skills that's kind of being a little bit deficient in there. And these two strategies I shared with you are a way for you to kind of improve your performance on that. I had one student who use actually the second method, that kind of with the question interpretation method, where you just read vignette from beginning to end, and you formulate your thought process and what you actually think it could be before looking at the answer results, and you have that in mind. They actually beforehand, before doing this process, they were only scoring in, I think, like the 40% on their problems and questions that they were doing, definitely below the national average. They started using this second method I told you about, and then they scored a 70%. And so they were above the national average because the national average was only about a 63%. So think about that. You went up 30 percentage points just because you change your test taking strategy. Imagine doing that in an entire course, an entire semester, an entire standardized exam, what type of score and outcome you could get by doing that. So you need to test each one of these strategies, see what works for you, and then stick with it, really work on it and improve it, hone down on it and make it yours, where you're not wasting time thinking about, oh, what strategy am I going to use? And you're not going to go back and forth and switch strategies. Once you have something that works for you, you need to keep with it and stick with it and just master it. So it's one less thing you need to think about or worry about when you're taking your exams, any type of test. You want to make sure you're doing that. And you should have good results like that example I shared with you. Maybe yours isn't going to skyrocket like that, but over time, you definitely can see some significant improvements that's really going to take you to the next level. So again, that's just a test taking strategy I have for you and how to approach problems. There are two different philosophies that you can use for that. So again, look best to you guys on that and look forward to you guys having more success now when you're tackling the problems that you have.